Good morning, everyone. On behalf of CSIR, National Institute of Science Communication and Policy Research, CSIR NISPO, I, Rama Trivedi, welcome you all to the National Student Webinar, focusing on science teaching methodologies in the 21st century, a student's perspective. Educational resources and technology in education have undergone revolutionary changes in the 21st century. Digitization of educational resources and the emergence of virtual platforms have completely changed the course of teaching and learning. New methods have been introduced into the classroom, such as ICT, virtual platforms, virtual labs, presentations, online learning methods, and VR tools. Since students are the primary stakeholders in the field of education, this webinar aims at giving a voice to students and understand their perspectives, changes, and learning methods. We welcome all the students who will be presenting their views and also those who are participants today. We would also like to welcome principals and teachers who would be participating in today's webinar. Well, it gives me immense pleasure to also welcome our esteemed resource person for this webinar, Professor Ashok Bakshi, a renowned academician and former Vice Chancellor of PGM University, Bahadurgarh, Haryana, who will be giving his expert views today. We also welcome Mr. R.S. Somu, Chief Scientist, CSIR NISPO, and other CSIR, NISPO, and CSIR scientists who have joined us. Moving forward, let us begin the webinar. I would request Mr. R.S. Somu, the Chief Scientist, CSIR NISPO, to deliver the welcome address. Mr. Somu is the editor of the Indian Journal of Experimental Biology. He is the head of Raw Materials, Herbarium and Museum, Delhi, and also the Nodal Officer, Vikyasa, CSIR NISPO, New Delhi. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Rama, for the brief introduction. And it is indeed my pleasure to pay the welcome address on behalf of the NISPER today in this great event. Well, when we go by this institute, this is the National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research. Though we had just celebrated our first foundation day on the August day, since of January 14, we owe our origin to many decades. Okay, and if I put NISPER in two verticals, that one is science communication and the other one is policy research. While science communication aspect that we had originated along with, in fact, the formation of CSIR itself in way back in 1942 as two units major. That is, one is very well acclaimed project, Wealth of India, which many of you will be knowing, and then the Journal of Scientific and Industrial Research in 1942 as a small unit. And then later on, it took to many forms, and then National Institute it became in 2002, and then merged with the policy S&T Policy Research Institute, NISTATS, and this NISTATS wing actually it was its origin sometime in 1974. Okay, and to synergize and get the maximum out of these two institutes, the visionaries in fact brought out this kind of merger, and today we have a clear-cut vision and goal with merging both the wings together. We would like to become a globally respected think tank for S&T policy studies and as well as disseminate quality science. Okay, so that's our major role, and to see this event and I'm literally, I mean, happy to note one of our the best units in science communication wing, the popular science division, with the proper, able guidance from my senior colleague Hassan Javed, and uh, very vibrant young scientists like Mehavan and all. Coming up with such programs, okay, the kind of see, we often listen to faculties, okay, on webinars, and when I see this, it's a webinar of students. In fact, it's quite interesting to note. Then why only webinars for faculties? Why not for us students? That's a good sign, and it's a appreciable aspect for Dr. Mayurwan to think on those lines. Very good, and any whatever we do, right, the most important aspect is a feedback. Okay, so taking feedback gives you a kind of clear cut uh, I mean uh, do's and don'ts, okay, to plan whether first of all whether what you have done is the correct thing, or are we going on the roadmap properly. So this kind of feedback helps, and I see this event in that angle. Science teaching methodologies in science, actually, uh, it's a matter of fact that to pull students to science stream is a challenge itself. Okay, so to make it interesting, it lies with whom? It lies basically with the teacher's hand. You know, the teachers or the sculptors to shape the student, first of all, to bring them into science stream. CSIR has been in this task, doing this task quite actively for decades, especially even now. 2017, we CSIR signed a memorandum with KVs, especially, and now it is extended to all the schools. That is called Jigyasa. There's a science student science connectivity program. Okay, just to inculcate the kind of scientific temper, and then bring students, attracts the students to the science stream. And see, in CSIR we have about 38 labs across the country, working in all disciplines of science. Okay, this Jigyasa helps students to have direct contact with the working scientists. They can come to labs and then spend time with them. Then they'll understand what the how a life of a scientist go in a daily routine. So that way it was a quite successful program. And then this gives a kind of close link with the student fraternity. And then if I say this from what I call the national Yojana Bhavan also, that is, we have Atal innovative missions, and CSIR, I think it's the largest collaborator for this program, Atal innovative missions. We have sponsored so many schools, more than 300 or 350 around. On the foundation day, they were, they pointed out this point, and that's a good thing for CSIR. And in fact, as I said earlier, the pedagogy matters matters a lot, because that brings students interest. And this especially in the last 2 years, if I see, the pandemic had thrown a lot of challenges, okay, for teachers to jump into the kind of IT tools to depend on the classrooms, okay, to conduct the classes, regular classes. Still it is going on, okay, and the conducting not only classes, the exams and everything. On that aspect, the theme of this one day meet is really appreciable. And then what would be more better, actually, listening to them, okay, the whom we teach, okay, so how they perceived, okay. So in that sense, it is quite quite right and quite encouraging. And I congratulate all the students, 14 students who have managed to, get a chance today to present their understanding of teaching methodologies. Okay, and then I also congratulate the respective schools, and I thank all the participants, not just what we have, the 14 students. Actually, behind the Meherman will be knowing that how many schools have participated actively, and then it's with the limited time we will not be able to, provide a platform to all. So we have made some kind of analysis and accommodated 14 presentations. I wish the presenters a good day ahead, and then I thank to have a guest of that level, Dr. Ashok Bakshi, the former DU professor, and then he has see it's a more close to this academics, and the choosing a guest of honor and the chief guest, that's quite apt in this way. The kind of experience that Professor Bakshi has with the students. Okay, so thank you, Professor Bakshi, for accepting this or to be a guest today. And then I wish all the participants a good program ahead. Thank you, Rama.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening inaugural address. Now, before I invite our student speakers to give their presentations, I would like to ask Dr. Meherwan, scientist, CSIR, NISPO, to give a brief about the webinar.
Thank you, Rama. Jayasomu sir presented the motto and activities of CSR NISPO very clearly. We know that science communication has a very broad spectrum and it has a very peculiar intersection with science education too. A great teacher is also a great communicator in the class and outside. Idea about this National Students Webinar initiated under the mentorship of Mr. Hassan Javed Khan, Chief Scientist and Head of the Popular Science Division, CSR NISPR. And we plan to organize this special webinar in which we will listen to the students about the new education technologies and the methods. As pointed out already, that the last few decades were revolutionary in the terms of education technologies, when several new education technologies emerged, such as ICT, virtual labs, virtual reality, augmented reality, etc. In the last few years during pandemic, much emphasis is given on online teaching. We all know that online teaching is very democratic in one sense, but there are other aspects too. Generally, we are able to know the opinions and perspectives of teachers, academic experts, and the academic administrators, but it's very rare when we get the opportunity to listen to students, the students who are the primary stakeholders of education. This National Students Webinar aims to provide opportunity to students to present their views and opinions on the new education technologies and methods. We have invited students' nominations by the school principals nationwide, and we received several nominations from across the India, from Arunachal Pradesh to Andhra Pradesh, from Kerala to Rajasthan, from Delhi, Lucknow to Tripura. And we are really happy to receive such response from the principals, teachers, and students. And we hope that we will keep organizing such events in future also. So for this webinar, 14 students were shortlisted and they will present their views today. Apart from the opinions, students might have several questions too. So we are fortunate to have Professor A.K. Bakhshi as a resource person today. Professor Bakhshi is a very renowned academician and educationist. He will be giving the concluding remarks after the students' presentations. I will not take much time as we are eager to listen our students and our resource person. Thank you so much and best wishes.
Thank you, sir, for explaining the concept of the webinar. Moving on to the next stage of the webinar, before I invite the first speaker, let me remind you of some instructions that have been communicated to you earlier as well. You will be given 5 minutes to speak. When 1 minute will be left, there will be a sound of buzzer, after which you have to accordingly sum up. Keep your camera off and microphone mute when you are not speaking. At your turn, unmute yourself and make sure the camera is on. Wear a headset while speaking to avoid unnecessary background sounds. At the end of the session, once all the speakers and resource person have given their presentations, we will have a question answer session. No questions will be entertained in between the session. Before we start, I would like everyone to on their camera so that a group photo can be taken. Everyone is requested to on their camera so that a group photo can be taken. Thanks everybody. Now starting with the presentation, I invite our first presenter, Palash Chandani, student of class 9 from St. Anselm Senior Secondary School, Alwar, Rajasthan.
Good evening, sir and ma'am. Technology can become the wings that will allow the educational world to fly farther and faster than ever before, if we will allow it. Quoted by Jenny Arledge. Good morning to all present in this webinar. I, Palash, present here to speak on digitization of education in 21st century. We are running into 21st century where technology knows no boundaries. This is the phase of radical development where technology is taking over every nook and corner. Digitization is the integration of digital technologies into everyday life by digitization of everything that can be digitized. Yes, digitization is the term describing the 21st century in the most precise way that we can. We are in the era where unprecedented ideas are unfolding in our education industry and creating the advancement that can't be matched by lagging behind in terms of technology. Smartphones, laptops, and tablets are no more unknown in the present era. During this phase, the education system is evolving for sake of betterment as this generation students are not born to be confined by the limits of simple learning. Their curiosity is vast and cannot be catered with the educational systems that were designed earlier. The new phase of advanced techniques like online courses, online exams, digital textbooks, and animation, etc. By digitization of educational systems too, the use of various techniques like online exams, courses, digital textbooks, quizzes, and e-notes has increased our knowledge to several folds. Moreover, with recent times, education is being compromised. Because of that, online resources are being developed in a way that makes them always available to teachers to educate the masses, which in turn had improved the quality of education and increased the number of literate students in our nation. The core existence of the core existence of online education platform is being possible with the internet. Schools and colleges in India make use of internet and they basically use it for conducting exams and quizzes. With digital systems being prevalent in education, we are experiencing different levels of online education ease, but the administrative part is not off the table. Keeping the records of students and maintaining their attendance and roll number is a big headache. That too, when the students are outnumbering the administrative heads. So the colleges and schools are adopting more hassle-free computerized methods and avoiding the old manual methods of maintaining records. In the end, I want to conclude that digitization has no doubt changed our education system, but We cannot say that it has diminished the value of our old-time classroom learning. Neither do we want so priceless to turn into dust. The best part about the digitization of 21st century is that it is combined with aspects of both classroom learning and online learning methods. Working hand in hand, both act as a support system to each other, which gives a strong hold to our modern students. Digitization in the education has also proved to be right method for saving resources. Online examination platform has restricted the frivolous usage of paper, directly confining the cutting down of trees. This way, the digitization of education industry in the 21st century proves to be a boon to our society. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Adrija Bhaumik, student of class 8 from Brilliant Stars School, Tripura.
So, good morning, one and all present here. I am Audriza Bhomik from class 7 from Brilliant Store School and I read in class 7. So, before going to the main topic, first I would like to say some words about nature and science. For me, nature is a mystery as long as it is unfolded. On the contrary, science is one of the instruments which helps us to unfold the nature in different ways. So, in the 21st century, we get many technologies to explore the nature, and science is the main like weapon which helps us to take out all the mysteries from the nature. And our teachers are continuously helping us to learn science in a better way, but I think we are not getting all the techniques which can make us more interested towards science. There are many students who are not interested towards science.
Our next speaker is Basil Rexy Creative, student of class 12, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, Ernakulam, Kerala.
Good morning. Honorable dignitaries in the meeting. I am Basil Raksi from JNV Ernakulam. Learning has been known traditionally is a process that usually happens in a classroom where students sit in rows at desks and teachers lecture in front of them. Thus, a learning environment is usually perceived as a place and space where teaching and learning happens in places such as schools, classrooms, and libraries. However, today's learning environment need to embrace the variety of places, ideas, and people that the modern world demands. These reflect the flexibility of space, time, people, and technology. The transformation of technology in the 21st century has produced children who are tech savvy and exposed to the internet and social networking at a very young age. This can have a number of bad effects on us children, but is essential considering the pace with which today's world is advancing. Thus, teachers have been forced to use technology and transform the learning environment to meet the requirements of these children. In contrast to traditional learning, 21st century learning needs students to acquire skills that allow them to be involved in their own learning. Although most 21st century learning takes place in physical locations such as schools, in today's globalized and technology driven world, a learning environment can be virtual, online, and even remote. In other words, it need not be conducted in a place at all. Thus, a 21st century learning environment could be generalized as a system that organizes the conditions in which humans learn best. This system must accommodate the unique learning needs of every learner and support the positive human relationships needed for effective learning. This means that if our students are to compete globally today, they must be proficient critical thinkers, communicators, collaborators, and creators. The traditional need to equip students with the 3R skills or reading, writing, and arithmetic is no longer adequate. Primary and secondary school teachers should be competent and able to teach effectively to promote these skills. These teachers need to change the way they teach as the 21st century students now come to school with very different sets of experiences and expectations. These technology savvy people navigate their life far differently than many of their teachers. Thus, to be able to connect, relate, and motivate them, teachers need to be open to new ways of teaching that supports the students' needs. There is an impeccable and inexorable need to raise the standard of the methodologies used for teaching in schools. No offense to all the great teachers out there, but what should be said should be said. I know and appreciate the fact as a student that many, if not all teachers, produce their magnum opuses for us to learn through whatever ways they can. The preponderance of preposterous methodologies adopted by the teaching community is something that should be pointed out and appropriately changed. The prescription of this cannot be solely given by me, but now I would like to speak upon some of my suggestions on this aspect. There is not much difference between the approach to teach the 21st century learners from the previous ones. Teachers still want their students to be creative thinkers and problem solvers who have the necessary skills to function properly in the society and their workplace too. The differences lie in how the skills are incorporated in the classroom and how technology is integrated into their learning. Teachers simply cannot claim that they have successfully taught for the 21st century learners by simply using the tools needed. To teach successfully with the 21st century tools, teachers should be able to integrate the tools with various teaching strategies and approaches. Using a PowerPoint to deliver a lesson today is no longer adequate, but it has become a boredom when students have to sit and listen to the teacher referring to slides from the beginning to the end of a lesson. This process is similar to using a whiteboard, and transparency which is teacher-centered and does not allow the students to explore what they have learned. IT-based teaching tools such as computers, interactive whiteboards, projectors, and even simply a whiteboard can be used successfully if teachers are able to think creatively and involve their students in the teaching and learning process. Thus, the 21st century teaching environment need not imprison the student in a classroom from the beginning to the end, but instead transform it into an environment where students are free to move around, search for answers to the problems posed by the teacher, and communicate with their peers. While this is what is to be practiced ideally, many teachers are tempted to give dialogues like, will you write your exams in groups? Or will he or she come and write your exams? Yes, it is understandable that the teachers tell so in order to reduce the noise coming from their classrooms. But if it undermines the very essence of a classroom, does it have any relevance here? In a normal case, the learning process ends inside the class itself. The only other time students will look back into the topic is when they need to revise it for the exams. Teachers should give students tasks to search the internet, discuss with their friends through social networking or smartphones. This will keep the students focused and the learning process will never die, even outside the four walls of the classroom. Teaching science should not be limited to classrooms or laboratories. A class could be conducted successfully in the school field, garden, assembly area, or even at the mess, depending upon the topic being taught. The main theme is to engage students in their learning by giving them the space to do so. It is such a waste that a subject like science is being restricted to the classroom for the students to explore. However, using technological tools would not guarantee that students will be successful, skillful, or even able to compete globally. Many Indians should widely absorb that every new piece of technology can help them. For example, when the radio came, they thought that this was the thing and would help them reach heights untouchable. But little did they see the failure that lay ahead. Such kind of technology is new to people and might take time to have a correct knowledge on whether this is to stay with us in the longer run. Moreover, machines can become a form of attraction in itself. Students can get influenced negatively by this and lead to wastage of their precious resources. So I think it is clear from my presentation that this is indeed a contradictory topic and requires a number of variables to go with any of the sides. But technology for sure can do wonders to the students' imagination and sense of interest. Hoping for a brighter and joyful century ahead, and many more to come. I would like to end my kind words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dilshad. And next speaker is Kumar Debashi Sacharji, student of class 9th, Vivekanand Kendriya Vidyalaya, Sidosha, Arunachal Pradesh.
In questions of science, the authority of thousand is not worth the humble reasoning of a single individual. Good afternoon to everyone. In 21st century, there is much importance of science. It should be disseminated in a correct way. My perspective in this webinar would summed up in acronym science. Firstly, S stands for scientific language. Science at school level is largely used as a practical subject, one that is taught using experiments, for instance. But effective teaching and learning requires language in any way. Language is necessary even for practical works. Teachers explain and students need to ask questions. The language should be comprehensive and in a vernacular way. Language plays a crucial role in the formation and development of concepts. This suggests that a teacher's language is vital in teaching science and creating the condition for meaningful learning. In 21st century, everything is digitalized and there is much changes in the learning process. Digital education enables teachers to pace learning according to individuals' needs. In this way, it facilitates the acquisition of cognitive skills at the level of each learner's ability, allowing the learner's opportunity to practice more and go ahead. C stands for curiosity and analogy. Curiosity is the gateway for the learning process to go far. There should be curiosity in the students for learning and they must ask questions. Curiosity is helpful for us to overcome our fears and leads to a better learning as well as teaching system. Analogies are often used in science. Educationalists often express concern about the use of analogies in teaching. Given the importance of analogies in the discourse of science, it is necessary that the students are explicitly shown how they work. When using an analogy, the teacher should very clearly specify both its components and its limitations to ensure that it is understood as intended and that misconceptions are minimized. This approach models and behavior of a scientist help to develop students' understanding of the practice of science. I stands for integration of information technology, virtual labs, and animation. Study of information technology explores the factors that influence science teachers' decision regarding the implementation of innovative computer-based scientific modules in their classrooms. The information technology greatly contributed in virtual labs, animations, and digital learning. Students can obtain lab content information equally well from two types of laboratories, a virtual lab and a physical lab. In the teaching process of 21st century, it is seen to be that the virtual lab is more effective than the physical lab. It is significant to find practical ways to design and develop intelligent systems based on 3D games with limited complexity forms. Students should go with virtual labs so they can explore their surroundings and identify new things more effectively and can create their own animations in the learning process. In education, our challenge is to equip learning functions effectively, but in 21st century, life and work will be enhanced due to the digital learning. Digital education is potential for a wide variety of teaching methods. Then E stands for explore, explain, elaborate, create, and system. It is come to be known as 5 E's, which is very essential for the teaching and learning process of science. N stands for numbers. The role of numbers is very significant in teaching and learning. Measurement is an integral part of the modern science as well as of engineering, commerce, and daily life. Despite its ubiquity and importance, there is little consensus among philosophers as to how to define measurements. What sorts of things are measurable and what conditions makes measurements possible? The units and measurements should be in an objective way. It greatly contributed in the progress of STEM, that is, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. C stands for culture and responsibility. In teaching science, there should be reflection of cultural ingredients. Since we have cultural diversity, the scientific practices to various regions can be brought to classroom. Is likely to provide sustainable solutions. From the classroom itself, students should have what we call a green meter or sustainable meter. This will bring science along with responsibility. Then the last point is E, stands for experiments and models. Experiments is essential for understanding the concept. Guided experiments along with engagement in various projects and model making can bring justice and real tests of scientific education dissemination. In the 21st century, convenience and flexibility has increased due to the use of virtual models in the learning process. So the progress in science, technology, and innovation materialized with participation of all the stakeholders, teachers, students, governments, private sectors, and communities. I would like to conclude on these words. Thank you.
Thank you, Devashish. Now we have with us Abir Mandal, student of class 9, Vivekanand Kendriya Vidyalaya, Kuporuju, Arunachal Pradesh.
Good morning to all of you. I am Abir Mandal of class 9 from BKB Kupurizo. Getting directly to the point, research tells us that our brain remembers concepts and ideas in picture form rather than simple words. So if concepts and ideas can be taught or demonstrated to students, through VR means at the introductory level. I am sure it will help remember these concepts and terms for a longer time and with minimal effort. So instead of just giving notes and speaking verbally, it will be better to actually show students how particular subjects work through the help of many VR tools available these days. That is bound to spark up imagination and interest, especially among for the youngsters, and help them in the long run. Realistically speaking, every human on this earth is different and has unique qualities. Not everyone is suited for every job. Different people have different qualities and interests. VR teaching methods will help students to discover these qualities and help them focus more on this particular subject or field. Likewise, different students have different paces to learn concepts and grasp the knowledge. So, if by the help of VR teaching methods, students can be taught at their own pace, it will be very helpful for everyone. Now, I would like to speak a few words about my feedback. All these sudden changes in teaching and learning methods is even worrying me a bit. Sure, these are helpful, but I wonder if we are going to be stuck in our homes and have to attend classes from home. That is certainly not helpful for the mental and physical health of any student. Then comes the budget issues. In my opinion, if we can't implement or provide these new age learning tools to most students simultaneously or between short gaps, it will be unfair for some students big time. Another thing that concerns me is the eye health and radiations emitted by wireless devices. We already, especially the youngsters, now spend a considerable amount of our time in front of some sort of screen. As we all know, the blue light is potentially harmful for our physical and mental well-being. And with all these VR learning methods, we would spend much more time in front of the screen, and that's going to impact our eyes and brains more severely. So that needs to be taken into consideration before going for direct learning and teaching through VR means. We know that science is everywhere around us. If we think carefully, everything is related to science. Now, it's practically impossible for teachers to remember all these scenarios and relation to real life and bring them up whenever the topic arises. If through VR means all these realistic explanations and examples can be taught to students in a way which is not too stressful or difficult to remember collectively, then it will be very helpful. That will help the imagination grow and let students use science in every aspect of their life with experience. With these words, I'd like to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Avi. Now, it's turn of Ananya Singh, student of class 8, Brilliant Star School, Tripura.
So today I'm going to tell something about the students' perspective of different kinds of places, science tech teaching methodologies in 21st century, which is a student's perspective. So in the current age we live in, technology has become an important component. Every day there is some new gadget or software that makes lives easier and improves on the technology and software that already exists. So, making lives easier is not, however, the only role technology plays in our life. Technology in uh, is used in different kinds of classroom, like it helps the students absorb the material faster. For example, since some people are visual learners, projection screens linked to computers can allow students to see their notes instead of simply listening to a teacher delivering a lecture. It is also sometimes boring for some of the students to just listen to a lecture and they don't get any interest in it. So with educational resources and technology undergoing revolutionary development, the learning process in the classroom has witnessed a paradigm shift. So, science helps our understanding of the world around us. Everything we know about the universe, from how the trees reproduce to what an atom is made up of, is a result of scientific research. There are various kind of effective teaching strategies for the classroom. They are visualization, cooperative learning, inquiry based instruction, differentiation, technology in the classroom, behavior management, and professional development. There are the exemplary develop which is a rich kind of science education can offer a rich context for developing many 21st century skills like critical thinking, then problem solving, information literacy, especially when instruction address the nature of the science and including technological advancement, scientific innovation, increased globalization, shifting workforce demands and pressures of economic competitiveness, and redefining the broad skill sets the students need to be adequately prepared to participate in and contribute to today's society. The advantages of this are students meet the standards for scientific inquiry and technological design. Students have a complete, accurate working and understanding of the nature of science. Ongoing professional development opportunities and effective pre-service and induction programs for science educators support the integration for 21st century skills in classroom teaching. Quality in inquiry-based curriculum and support materials promote science and learning and 21st century skills. Assessments are also aligned with 21st century curriculum and instruction and appropriately measure students' progress towards skills acquisition in addition to mastery of core content. A wide range of technologies serve as tools to engage students with real-world problem solving, conceptual development, and critical thinking. Instruction includes a variety of opportunities for students to investigate and build scientific explanations such as lab experiences. So there are various kinds of methods for science teaching on the perspective of students. So as we know, lectures are sometimes too boring for students. We also have other methods for science teaching. They are hands-on activities where we discuss something, make pairs or groups, and it is basically student-centered. Project-based learning, we make different assignments and projects. Peer-led team learning, which is also student-centered. Then we have flipped learning, which is student-centered, and differentiation, which is also student-centered. So we also have direct instructions like lectures, demonstrations, videos, then explicit teaching. We have indirect instruction, which is reflective discussion, problem solving, case studies. We have surveys and other things for the studies. Then experiential learning, which are field trip, field observation, experiments, then games, etc. Independent study are when reads, reports, exercises, then we also have homework side by side. And another thing is interactive instruction, where we interact with different kind of people, get everyone's views, like in debates, discussions, group projects, and brainstorming. Interactive teaching strategies for remote learning in the virtual classroom is also there. Then when we have self-regulation, we have knowledge construction plus real-world problem solving, which is along with collaboration and communication, which are all required for the information and communication technology. So I would like to conclude that software can be used to supplement class curriculum. The programs provide study questions, activities, or even tests and quizzes for a class that can help students continue learning outside the classroom. So technology has become a part of the many curriculums, even outside of computer and technology classes. Students use computers, tablets, laptops to create presentations and use the internet to research topics for papers and essays. So we can say that we are completely nowadays relied on technology, and it also helps us in different ways and makes our life easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya. Our next speaker is Mohammed Suhail, student of class 11 from KV Elegance, Lucknow.
आप सभी लोगों को गुड मॉर्निंग। मेरा नाम मोहम्मद सुहेल है और मैं कक्षा 9वीं का छात्र हूँ। तो जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने कहा था कि विज्ञान सिर्फ बैठे रहने और चीजों को घटित होने के लिए प्रार्थना करने के लिए नहीं है, बल्कि चीजें कैसे घटित होती हैं ये पता करने के लिए है। तो अगर हम कोई भी रिसर्च करते हैं तो हम ये देखते हैं कि हमें जरूरी नहीं है कि हर बार सफलता मिल जाए या तुरंत हमें सफलता मिल जाए। पहले हम कई बार असफल होते हैं और फेल होते हैं, उसके बाद ही जो है हमें सफलता मिलती है। तो इस तरीके से हम कोई भी रिसर्च करते हैं तो इतना आसानी से हम रिसर्च नहीं कर पाते हैं, हमें कई बार फेल होना पड़ता है, कई सारी मुश्किलों का सामना करना पड़ता है, तभी जाके हम सफल हो पाते हैं। तो पहले की जो दुनिया थी और प्राचीन जो दुनिया है और मध्यकालीन जो दुनिया थी, वो अब के मुकाबले बहुत ही ज़्यादा डेवलप नहीं थी। क्योंकि पहले अगर आप एक एग्जांपल लें, जैसे पहले 20th सेंचुरी में कोई टीचर हमें एटम चैप्टर पढ़ा रहा है, तो एटम हम देख तो सकते नहीं है। तो पहले जो टीचर होगा वो बोर्ड पे हमें एक्सप्लेन करेंगे कि कैसे जो है एटम का स्ट्रक्चर होता है और किस तरीके से इसके अंदर न्यूट्रॉन्स एंड प्रोटॉन्स होते हैं और कैसे इलेक्ट्रॉन रिवॉल्व करता है अपने ऑर्बिट में। ये सारी चीजें हमें खुद इमेजिन करना पड़ता था अपने ब्रेन में कि हाँ ऐसा ही कुछ होता होगा। लेकिन अब जो टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई है, कंप्यूटर, मोबाइल और इलेक्ट्रॉन माइक्रोस्कोप की इन्वेंशन हुआ है, इसकी मदद से हम बहुत ही ज्यादा इजीली अपने कंसेप्ट को क्लियर कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि हम एक्चुअल में अब एटम को देख सकते हैं कि किसी भी ऑब्जेक्ट का एटम किस तरीके का होता है और किस तरीके से ये दिखता है और किस तरीके से इसके जो सारे स्ट्रक्चर्स हैं वो किस तरीके से कंबाइन होते हैं। और हो सकता है कि आगे कुछ ऐसे भी माइक्रोस्कोप्स का इन्वेंशन हो जिससे हम मूविंग एटम, जो इलेक्ट्रॉन मूव करते हैं और कैसे इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन होते हैं और कैसे लूज होते हैं, ये सारी चीजें भी देख पाएं। तो जो हमारी टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी ज्यादा आगे बढ़ रही है, इसके बहुत ही ज्यादा फायदे फायदे हैं, जिससे हम जो है अपने कंसेप्ट को, जो भी हम पढ़ते हैं उसके कंसेप्ट को बहुत ही इजीली क्लियर कर सकते हैं। जैसे अगर हम देखें, फोटोसिंथेसिस होता है हमारे प्लांट में, जिससे कार्बोहाइड्रेट और ऑक्सीजन बनता है। तो ये हम देख नहीं सकते हैं, लेकिन अब रिसर्च की मदद से और माइक्रोस्कोप की मदद से हम जो है फोटोसिंथेसिस को अपने घर बैठे अपने फोन, टैबलेट या कंप्यूटर में देख सकते हैं। तो ये हमारे लिए बहुत ही अच्छी बात है। और अभी जब कोविड पेंडेमिक आया था 2 to 3 years के लिए, तो इस बीच में हमने ये देखा कि ऑनलाइन क्लासेस बहुत ही ज़्यादा तेजी से चलने लगी। तो इससे टीचर्स को थोड़ा सा सीखने में मुश्किल हुई, लेकिन उसके बाद फिर आप देख रहे हैं कि ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा इससे इजीली टीचर किसी भी चीज़ को पढ़ा पा रहे हैं। जैसे स्कूल में भी जो है बोर्ड पे हमें लिखना पड़ता है, डायग्राम बनाना पड़ता है, और अगर फोन पे टीचर दिखाता भी है किसी चीज को तो उसे भी हमें जो है बहुत ही ज्यादा ध्यान से सारे स्टूडेंट नहीं देख पाएंगे। लेकिन ऑनलाइन क्लासेस की मदद से टीचर रिप्रेजेंट कर देगा, तो जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो सारी चीज क्लियरली देख सकते हैं, समझ सकते हैं। तो ये जितनी भी टेक्नोलॉजीज आती जा रही हैं, ये बहुत ही ज़्यादा हेल्पफुल है हमारे कंसेप्ट को क्लियर करने के लिए। और बियर्स एक एजुकेशनिस्ट हैं, इन्होंने ये कहा था, सुझाव दिया था कि 21st सेंचुरी में जो साइंस की पढ़ाई है उसके लिए ये सारी बातों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए। अ वैरायटी ऑफ लर्निंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज एंड एक्टिविटीज, the use of appropriate technology tools to accomplish learning goals, project and problem-based learning, collaborative learning environment both within and beyond classroom, high levels of visualization and use of visuals to increase understanding, frequent formative assessment including the use of self-assessment। तो ये सारी चीज़ों की मदद से हम स्टूडेंट्स के अंदर बहुत ही ज़्यादा हेल्पफुलनेस होगी और हम अपने कंसेप्ट को क्लियर कर पाएंगे। और फाइनली मैं ये कंक्लूजन देना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो टीचिंग टूल्स हैं जिसकी मदद से हम अपने कंसेप्ट, टीचर स्टूडेंट्स के कंसेप्ट को क्लियर कर सकता है, जैसे कि कंप्यूटर्स हैं, प्रोजेक्टर्स हैं और इंटरैक्टिव वाइट बोर्ड्स हैं, इन सब की मदद से हम टीचर अपने स्टूडेंट का जो भी कंसेप्ट है उसे आसानी से क्लियर कर सकता है। तो थैंक यू।
Thank you, Suhil. Our next speaker is Kumar Redya Dodam, student of class 9th, VKV Siddhusa, Arunachal Pradesh.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Internet has become the major activity for most of our daily tasks in our life. And we also learned through the COVID-19 pandemic that more and more can actually be done with the internet. A major sector that has evolved and is evolving is education. So, and that is the digital learning. Digital learning is any instructional, strengthen students' learning experience. So as I was telling you that the virtual platform has much more benefits than we expect, and those includes. But before that, I'd like to tell that the teacher too faces many problems, and the teacher too the mindset has to be changed for both the student and the teachers for the virtual platform. The teacher has to enable ways that are most eligible for the students to understand and comprehend. And the students have to adapt to the learning ways that has changed during the COVID-19 pandemic so we can have more fun in our education. So I'd also like to include the benefits of the online classes. And at the start, when the online classes started, many problems were faced by the students, and those includes that network issues, the lack of understandability, technical issues, and also in some cases family problems, and also distraction by our personal pleasures like games and other activities. So as we started to get used to the online classes, it became more fun and than the offline classes. Many ways, like we have we have post, we can foster ownership upon the education. That is the most valuable advantage of online class is that the we can self study. That is without the teacher's help. Like in our offline classes, we have to be on time during the classes. That is in the afternoon. But some people are more active in the night. That is that it is so that is an advantage for the students uh, who are more interested in studying. So digital vastly enhances the creativity of our mind. And as we Ananda has said that everything you can do everything and anything. So with that thought in mind, classes can be much better than offline classes, and the self study that we do can be a great advantage in the future. So with this, I'd like to conclude my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Meja. I request you all to please switch off the mics while speaker is speaking. Our next speaker is Soumya Thakur, student of class 11th, KV Aliganj, Lucknow.
I want to tell something new other than all the students say. मैं आप सबको ये बताना चाहती हूँ कि एज एक स्टडी कहती है कि हम लोग जो देखते हैं या फिर जो पढ़ते हैं उससे ज्यादा हमें वो चीजें याद होती है जिसको हम लोग वर्चुअली अपने सामने देख रहे होते हैं। हम लोग जो चीजें सिर्फ सुनते हैं या फिर जो चीज हम लोग केवल देखते हैं या फिर प्रैक्टिस करते हैं उससे हम लोग वो चीज उतनी अच्छे से नहीं याद कर पाते जैसे हम लोग जो चीज अपने सामने होते हुए देखते हैं इन प्रैक्टिकल्स। इसलिए प्रैक्टिकल्स भी कराए जाते हैं बहुत सारे स्कूल में। एक्चुअली इन द रिसेंट ईयर्स हमने ये चीज देखी है कि ऑनलाइन क्लासेस हो रही हैं जिसमें टीचर्स हमें वीडियोस ज्यादा प्रेफर करते हैं नॉर्मल स्टडी से। तो हम लोग जब वीडियोस को देखते हैं सुनते हैं एक्चुअली दैट विजुअल गिव अस मोर कन्फाइंड स्टडी अबाउट इट। हम लोग उस चीज को ज्यादा अच्छे से सीख पाते हैं। एंड व्हेन हम लोग कोई चीज अच्छे से देखे और सुने, तब हम उस चीज को अच्छे से समझ पाएंगे, तो हम उस चीज को अपने अंदर ज्यादा उसको समझ पाएंगे एंड उसको लिटरली अपने से कोरिलेट कर पाएंगे। लाइक ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी एक किसी भी स्टूडेंट के लिए बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट थिंग होती है समझना, क्योंकि हम लोग उसे को रिलेट नहीं कर पाते, बट जब हम लोग उसको प्रैक्टिकली अपने इसके सामने देखें तो इट विल मोर गुड। तो साइंस अभी हम लोग जैसे पहले से अगर इसे को रिलेट करें, तो शुरू में हम लोगों की जो पढ़ाई होती थी ब्लैक बोर्ड पे होती, टीचर्स इसमें बहुत टाइम वेस्ट होता था, क्योंकि टीचर्स पहले ड्रॉ करते या फिर कोई प्रैक्टिकल थिंग्स लाते तब हमें शो कर पाते। लेकिन अब हम लोग की जब पढ़ाई ऑनलाइन स्टडी मतलब ऑनलाइन मटेरियल हमें शो हो रहा है, तब it is too much easy for the teachers and students too to get the point what the teacher want to tell us. Here, I want to tell one more thing that पहले हम लोग जैसे कोई अगर डिजास्टर हुआ है या फिर कोई भी एनीथिंग प्रॉब्लम, देन वी आर नो लॉन्गर टू गो स्कूल्स एंड another things, but now the platform is available for us even in the situation of anything miserable. जैसे ये कहीं बारिश हो रही है तो स्टूडेंट्स को बहुत दिक्कत होती थी जाने में, बट अब हम लोग नॉर्मली इजीली जा सकते हैं और किसी भी चीज को देख सकते हैं। मतलब जैसे कि कहीं पे सुनामी या कोई ऐसा डिजास्टर हुआ है, तो इट इज टू मच प्रॉब्लमैटिक फॉर अस टू गो टू द स्कूल एंड आवर स्टडी गेट ब्रेक इन बिटवीन, बट अब हमारी ऑनलाइन स्टडीज भी हो सकती हैं। तो एक साइंटिफिक डेवलपमेंट जो ये हुआ है हमारे लिए बहुत ही अच्छा पर्सपेक्टिव है, बट समटाइम्स स्टूडेंट्स ऑल्सो मिस यूज इट। they say that they are studying but they are not, but हम लोग यहाँ पे एक चीज डिफेक्ट के साथ एक इसकी एडवांटेज भी देख सकते हैं। इसका एक और एडवांटेज, जैसे कोई बच्चा किसी चीज की तैयारी कर रहा होता है, मैंने बहुत बार अपने पेरेंट्स को कहते हुए भी सुना है कि पहले उनको बुक की जो सप्लाई होती थी या जो बुक उनको मिल नहीं पाती थी जितनी उनको क्वांटिटी चाहिए, उनको उसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा खोजना पड़ता था। बट अब हमारे पास सब ऑनलाइन मटेरियल अवेलेबल है, हम लोग कहीं पे भी अपनी बुक्स कोई भी बुक जो भी हमें चाहिए होती है हम लोग ले सकते हैं एंड उसे यूज कर सकते हैं। जस्ट लाइक एग्जाम्पल, कोई बच्चा नीट की प्रिपरेशन कर रहा है, उसको फिर 10 ईयर्स के क्वेश्चन चाहिए, एक्स्ट्रा क्वेश्चन चाहिए, तो उसमें बहुत सारे पैसों की मतलब इट्स टू मच वेस्ट ऑफ लॉट्स ऑफ मनी। बट ऑनलाइन स्टडी मटेरियल हमें जो प्रोवाइड होता है, इससे हम लोग इजिली कोई भी स्टडी का मटेरियल लोग कोई भी इजिली गेट कर सकते हैं और इट इज ऑल्सो चीप फॉर अस, और ये इन्वायरमेंट के लिए भी अच्छा होता है। तो in the 21st century we get that the development has taken place which is too much beneficial for us and the teachers too. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Soumya. So now we have with us Gibson Kena, student of class 9, VKV, Kuporijo, Arunachal Pradesh.
Good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Gibson Kena, of class 9 from BKV Kuprijo. Roles of teacher in 21st century. Teachers still play the important role of conveying knowledge and facilitating the learning process. However, the 21st century learners need to think and solve problems, communicate, collaborate, create and innovate to prepare them for the 21st century workforce. How do science should teach in 21st century? With a dramatically changing media environment, challenging economic and social climates, shifting relationship between citizens and policy makers, and an evolving understanding of democracy, science stands as a ready tool to help combat modern facilities. Teachers still play the important role of conveying knowledge and facilitating the learning process. However, the 21st century learners need to think and solve problems, communicate, collaborate, create, and innovate to prepare them for the 21st century workforce. How do science should teach in 21st century? With a dramatically changing media environment, challenging economic and social climates, shifting relationship between citizens and policy makers, and an evolving understanding of democracy, science stands as a ready tool to help combat modern facilities. How do we teach 21st century skills in classroom? Point number 1, make it relevant. make it relevant. The relevance of learning specific knowledge and skills is much clearer to the students and much more motivating if they understand how a given topic fits into the big picture or a meaningful context. Teach tough and disciplines. Students develop their 21st century skills and knowledge as they learn when each academic disciplines is important. How experts create new knowledge and how they communicate about it. Develop lower and higher order thinking skills at the same time. Students need to comprehend relationship between given variables to apply this understanding to different contexts. Encouraging transfer of learning. Students need to develop the ability of apply skills, concepts, knowledge, attitudes, and or strategies they develop in one context, situation, or application to another. Reflexibility. Low road transfer or after deliberate thought and analysis, high road transfer. Teach students to learn since there is a limit to how much students learn through formal schooling, they also must learn to learn on their own. Thank you.
Thank you, Gibson. Now we have with us Dharkan Gogoi, student of class 12, VKV, Nirjuli, Arunachal Pradesh.
Namaste and good afternoon to everyone present. Esteemed judges, fellow participants, I'm Dharkan Gogoi of class 12 of Vikiv in Irjuli, Arunachal Pradesh, and I would like to present my views on the subject science teaching methodology in the 21st century, a student's perspective. Now we are all aware what is science and how it has fascinated human beings since time immemorial. It has had a significant part in improving human lives and uh, finding solutions to every challenge and mystery in the world. Be it mobile phone, vaccine, electronic device, or even a car, uh, the reach of science is enormous. However, there has been a considerable change in the field of science as well as in the teaching of science in the 21st century. Uh, be it uh, be it the rise of the internet and of the digital world, or be it climate change, which exponentially threatens the existence of human beings, or be it even Elon Musk and his dreams of being of human race being an interplanetary race. There are many aspects of it which are missing from our current methodology and the current curriculum. Primarily being the scientific the scientific uh, uh, the scientific methodology of today's world. More we What are the things that we lack in the current methodology? There has been a very gradual shift since even after the advent of the internet, that we have not focused much more in the internet. As we all know that the introduction of computer skills and AI is largely limited to private schools and some exceptionally good schools. And many of these students, nearly 80% of India, graduates without having adequate knowledge of computer and artificial intelligence. Also, we are aware that we tend to learn much better and much better and much more if we experience it. If we experience it and if we learn it practically, which is absolutely absent from our curriculum. So more emphasis should be given on practical application and hands-on learning. But we're also aware that due to the ongoing pandemic, online classes uh, online classes are on the rise, and it cannot offer such privilege of practical application. So we must focus on visualization rather than just learning it and vomiting it out. And secondly, I think that we do not have peer group learning in our education system, and the methodology of it being just a teacher and student relationship, which of course should be very cordial and friendly. Peer group learning can enormously and substantially increase the students' curiosity and also inclined him towards scientific route. Now, what we lack is in today's scientific world, people are more oriented toward jobs rather than having a technical bent of mind or a practical approach uh, of things. So, what I think is we should have more research oriented studies, and we can expose it to students from an early stage, say class one. To a student in class one who has recently studied what solar system is, it will be greatly beneficial for him or her if he or she sees the practical model and how really the solar system works. And lastly, but not the least, the language issue. This has plagued the country for far too long. Many students face difficulty in clearly understanding the concepts, primarily because of adequate language skills. And even if many understand, there are many who are unable to express it properly and eventually lose interest. It is also the main reason for losing confidence as well. And lastly, digitalization, which is of course inevitable. But how can we make it more accessible? Uh, in India today, despite having spread despite the internet having spread across every nook and corner of the country, uh, still many people experience. I personally, I am studying in Naharlagan, and whenever the light goes off, whenever the power supply goes away, the internet goes away too. So that greatly hampers the learning, and the online classes, in my opinion, uh, are also a great way to learn. But it's also very distracting if you see that you are more exposed to the internet. You are more exposed to unnecessary things which may not benefit you at all. And also that many people find it hard to rather visualize it when they learn it online. And lastly, the most crucial aspect of it is the physical and the mental harm. We all know the great benefit of digital uh, classes, as I mentioned before, but like any other issue, it's same sides of the two sides of the same coin. The mental and the physical harm of it are enormous. We are sitting all day long for nearly 7 or 8 hours without any gap, gaining a lot of weight, and also losing interest as in physical activities, which is very harmful for our health as well. And the mental one is that there grows a sort of complacency, a sort of lethargy in ourselves, a fatigue that if anything can be done at home and in a 16 into 16-inch screen, why do we need to get up at all? So there are issues, but I think that changing the curriculum uh, to some extent will enormously benefit us and also uh, help in the propagation of science. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhrutan. Now, I invite Tejasvi Keval Ramani, student of class 11, Hansraj Model School, Delhi, to present her views.
Today, I, Tejasvi Kivalramani of class 9 from Hansraj Model School, Punjabi Bagh, New Delhi. I'm here to express my perspective for science teaching methodologies in 21st century. APJ Abdul Kalam rightly said, excellence is a continuous process and not an accident. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected many scientific and technical institutes globally, resulting in lower productivity in a number of fields and programs. However, the impact of the pandemic has led to opening of several new research funding lines for government agencies around the world. Science and technology is the ultimate need of an hour that changes the overall perspective of the human towards life. Over the centuries, there have been new inventions in the field of science and technology that help in modernizing the right from connecting people to using digital products. Everything involves science and technology. In other words, it has made life easy and simple. Moreover, Humans now have to live a simple life where is modern equipment explored by tech experts to find something new for the future. Science and technology has now expanded their wings to medical, education, manufacturing, and other areas. Moreover, they're not limited to cities but also rural areas for educational purposes every day. New technologies keep coming, making life easier and more comfortable. India is not behind when it comes to science and technology. Over the centuries, the country had witnessed reliable technology updates, giving its people a better life. The Indian economy is widely boosted with the Indian tech, the The Indian economy is widely boosted with science and technology in the field of astronomy, astrophysics, space exploration, nuclear power, and more. India is becoming more innovative and progressive to improve the economic condition of the nation. The implementation of technology in the research work promotes a better life ahead. Similarly, science in education is progressing rapidly. Because of this COVID 19 pandemic, all of us have been sitting in our homes and experiencing virtual learning. Gone are the days when we used to sit together with our classmates, held discussions, and end up finding a good answer for all our doubts. In fact, we have never experienced the fun to learn and experiment in the school science labs. Yes, we have now accomplished that level of technology in which we have shifted to virtual science labs in which a computer cursor makes the solution. Isn't it amazing? Now, we, the students of this online learning era, have come up with some new and fun ways of learning. To name a few, hands on learning, storytelling, role play, visual clues, instructional conversations, science text cards, word games, graphic organizers, thinking maps, context based learnings, and many more. Learning science in these fun ways is really more easy to understand and better to execute in our daily life. Science is a beautiful gift to humanity. We should not distort it. As it is rightly said by our former president, Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, we should really enjoy and use technology up to its optimum utilization. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for being patient listeners.
Thank you all for the wonderful presentations. Before I request our expert, Professor A.K. Bakshi, to enlighten us with his special remarks, it is my privilege to introduce him. Professor Ashok K. Bakshi is Chairman of the National Resource Center of Chemistry of the MHRD, Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center of the MHRD, and Center for E-Learning. He was also the Executive Director of Tertiary Education Commission, Mauritius, and Vice Chancellor of U.P.Rajarshi Tandon Open University, Allahabad. Professor Bakhshi held the prestigious Sir Shankar Lal Chair of Chemistry in the University of Delhi for more than 2 decades. He has also served as Director of the Institute of Lifelong Learning as well as of the Center for Professional Development and Higher Education of the University of Delhi. He has been a member of various professional academic bodies, committees of MHRD, UTC, NAC, TST, CBSC, NCRT, various universities and colleges. Professor Bakshi is the author and co-author of more than 180 research papers, 51 e-books and books. Besides, he has several awards and academic honors to his credit. Doctor Bakhshi has great interest in science education and new education technologies and also writes articles and opinions on different aspects of education technology. Last but not the least, Professor Bakhshi has also the distinction of being one of the first persons from the universities in India to have been selected as the member scientist of the third Indian research expedition to Antarctica in 1984. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Rama, for your very kind words of introduction. Let me at the very outset express my gratitude to the organizers, especially Mr. R.S. Jayasomo, Chief Scientist, Dr. Meherwan, the scientist, and the director also of this National Institute of Science Communication and Policy Research for organizing such a wonderful webinar on a very important topic. And I would also like to extend my greetings, though in absentia, to Mr. Hassan Javed Khanji, who is the head of Popular Science Division of this national body, for getting this idea and doing the needful. You know, it was a pleasure and it was a treat listen to so many young children of our country sharing their views on science teaching methodologies in the 21st century. And many of them in their talks did express concern over the way the science is being taught at present. See, though I am in a higher education sector, but I have been associated with school education as well. I have been the author of NCERT chemistry class 11th and 12th books, and also in the training programs of various +2 teachers of chemistry. See, my own experience says that in India, we need to do a lot in order to improve science teaching in this country. Now, before I share some of my thoughts, let's be very clear that we are living in the 21st century. You students are the students of 21st century. Therefore, our curriculum should also be of 21st century. Our methods of teaching should also be of 21st century, and accordingly our assessment should also be accordingly in tune with the times. Now it is said that in the 21st century, if you want to excel, you need two things. One is you should have an outstanding knowledge in the discipline concerned. Not only the disciplinary knowledge, you should also have the interdisciplinary knowledge. And you should also have practical knowledge. So under knowledge, all the three things should come. This is very, very important. Secondly, you also need 21st century skills. 21st century skills are a set of abilities which our students need to possess in order to excel in this information age. Now you may ask the question that what are these 21st century skills and why do we need them? Why they have suddenly become so important? Before I come to that, let's not be forgetting this point that we are living in an information age where getting any information is possible just by the click of the mouse. Now, this information age of 21st century has many challenges. One challenge is that this is an age of uncertainty. Many of our young students may not be knowing that once they finish their education, in which jobs they will be placed. Maybe those jobs are still not existing. So that is one age of uncertainty. Secondly, this is an age of artificial intelligence, where artificial intelligence will be equal to the intelligence of the students by the time they finish their education. So, if we can have machines with the same intelligence as you, then why do we need you? That could be a question mark. So, this is another challenge. And the third is the challenge from the massification of education. Everywhere, more and more students are getting enrolled. So, whatsoever few jobs will be left, there will be many takers. So, there is going to be a big competition. So, these are the three challenges of information age: uncertainty, artificial intelligence, and massification. So once these are the challenges, now we can understand why we need 21st century skills. And 21st century skills come under three categories. One is the learning skills, like as many of you pointed out today, collaboration, communication, creative thinking, and creativity. These are the skills you should have. You should not only know the meaning of these skills you should imbibe in you. And that cannot be done overnight. You can't become a critical thinker or creative overnight. No, this is a habit which needs to be nurtured in our students. So these are the learning skills. Then we have literacy skills. We need to have information literacy, media literacy, and also technology literacy. As many of you pointed out, I fully agree. But besides this, you also need to have life skills. You should be flexible, leadership quality, initiative, etc. All those things are very important. Why these skills have become more important? Because you cannot have machines with these skills. You can't have a machine which is creative. You can't have a machine with leadership quality. Therefore, all those students who, besides knowledge, will have these 21st century skills, they will have an advantage in this age. So, that is why you should focus on that. So, that is why many of you also pointed out why there is a need to nurture these skills amongst our students. And one more thing which I would like to mention is, besides knowledge and skills, you should also have the right personality. Sometimes, we ignore personality aspect. There is a report that 87% of the people fail in life not because of capability, but because of personality. So personality decides your values, your attitudes, your traits, your behaviors, you know, and these three things taken together, knowledge, skills, and personality, they make up and we call it competence. So competence is decided by these three things. I want my young students to be highly competent. They should be aware of all these things, how they should or how they need to be groomed. Now, having said that, now we come to the challenges, especially in science education. What I have said is common for all. But in science, challenges are much more. We need to focus a lot. And the biggest challenge is we need creative minds in India. There was a report which I was reading where it is said that 98% of the kids who enter kindergarten, they think different. But once they go through the education system and at the age of 25, when they come out, 98% of them think alike. That means our teaching is such that we curb their thinking ability. We do not encourage out of box thinking in our students. And that is why all of them think alike. That's not good for science. I personally feel that there is a crisis of creativity in Indian education system, and more so in sciences. Just look at the fact. The only scientist who got Nobel Prize while working in India has been C.V. Raman. He got Nobel Prize, I think, in 1930 on the basis of his Raman effect. Other people got, but then they were non-resident Indians. So it's almost 90 years which have passed. We have not been able to produce a Nobel Prize winner in sciences working in India. Please remember Chandrasekhar or Hargobind Khurana or others got, but then they were all non-resident Indians. So the question is, why is it happening? Why is there a crisis of creativity in Indian education system? It has to do with our teaching methods. Our education system still, unfortunately, focuses more on examination, rote learning, and scoring high marks. That's not the purpose of education. We do not encourage thinking, innovation, and creativity amongst our students. And since I am in higher education, by the time students come to higher education, their already thinking is fixed. Their style of learning is fixed. So it becomes more or less difficult to change them at that stage. Therefore, foundation for all this needs to be laid down at school level, at lower classes, where, concepts are built. And over one concept, another concept comes, then another concept. That is how the whole structure gets constructed. But if the foundations are weak, we will not be able to have a good structure. Therefore, I mean that we need to encourage this out-of-box thinking at lower classes, from kindergarten. Let them think. Please remember, learning is never the result of teaching. Learning is always the result of the activity of the learners. Our teaching methodology especially should focus on engaging the students, how they can be engaged, how they can be involved in the various tasks. That will really give rise to a learning. Otherwise, in our traditional talk and chalk method, which we still follow, which is a very old method, here the teacher is delivering the lecture. Students are merely passive listeners. They may ask few questions here and there, but otherwise it is an entirely teacher-centric approach. Slow and time consuming. You can't explain many concepts on the board. You can't solve many problems in the class due to the paucity of time. You have to finish syllabus. Therefore, our this traditional talk and chalk method of teaching is not in consonance with the present 21st century methods. We have to change. And for this, our teachers need to be changed. They need to be empowered because teachers themselves might have been the product of the old system. Nobody taught them the new methods, or no new methods never existed at that time. Therefore, we need to focus on these new methods, which will engage the learners, which will involve the students. As many of you pointed out, we should have problem-based learning. Give a problem, then let the students be involved in them and let them solve it. Because talk and chalk method worked only when teacher was the only source of knowledge provider. But now things have changed. Any information you want, you can just get it by the click of a mouse. You can search on your own. That is what I meant when I said information literacy you should have. You should know how to get any information. You should have technology literacy. You should have media literacy. Only thing is, you need to be told that this is the problem. These are the ways, these can be the various approaches. Search them, learn on your own, apply it, and then get the solution to that problem. Whether it is the problem-based learning or whether it is the project-based learning, or you can involve many students together. Teacher has to be a facilitator. Guide them. Yes, you work like that. And students will work. Wherever there is a problem, you guide them. That is why, it is said that in the 21st century, the roles of the teachers are going to change. They are more of a facilitator, coach, rather than the knowledge provider. That's not the role of a teacher now. Now there are multiple sources of knowledge which are available. But teacher should have the expertise how to engage the students, how to get the best out of the students. And wherever in their search of some solution, wherever they have the problem, you need to guide them. That is the meaning of facilitator. So this is the new approach which we need to follow. We need to have collaborative learning. Maybe a group of students can be constituted. They can share ideas with each other. Then the best will come out. So this is the best way to learn science. Experimentally, it is said that the best way to learn science is by doing it. But you should also have the conceptual clarity. You should have the vision and all that. Interconnection is also possible. When I said earlier in the knowledge, you should have the disciplinary knowledge, then interdisciplinary knowledge, then practical knowledge. All the three things are important. One drawback in our teaching is that we teach subjects in isolation. That's not the right thing. For example, if I am a chemistry person and I am teaching physical chemistry, then I will say, oh, I have nothing to do with organic, or I have nothing to do with inorganic, or I have nothing to do with physics. No, that's not the right one. So we have to have an interdisciplinary approach. Look at the top Nobel laureates in the world. I personally worked with a Nobel laureate in Japan. How they work. Whenever any problem comes to their mind, they call all the people who matter in respect of that problem, they think together. And then what comes out is the best. So that is the approach we need to follow. We need to encourage this sort of approach in our teaching methodology. We need to encourage our students to construct knowledge on their own slowly. And once this is done from lower classes, by the time they come to higher education, they will become expert. They will know everything. And that is what we need. So, again, I am emphasizing we need to focus on all these new teaching methodologies from lower classes on. Activity-based learning. Engage the students. Think of all those activities which, challenge the minds of the students, which encourage analytical thinking, creative thinking, all those activities. But ideas should come from the teacher. That is why, it is said that in the 21st century, professional development of the teachers is also very much required. They need to be trained with the changing times. They need to be told what are going to be the challenges and how they have to change. Because, someone very rightly said that the quality of an educational system cannot exceed the quality of its teachers. So until and unless we enhance the competence level of the teachers, the quality of education system cannot change. So this is my thinking. From my vast experience, not only in India, abroad with the leading institutes, that is how people work. But we have to think about that, how to do it. Another thing which I also feel at the same time is we need to revise our curriculum more frequently. As I said, 21st century students, our content should also be of 21st century. Unfortunately, the topics which we are teaching are still very, very old. I think when I was a student and now, there are still many same topics are still being taught. I remember when I wrote NCERT 11th or 12th chemistry book, I introduced quantum mechanics. And many people had a problem why you are doing it, quantum mechanics. I did it in the beginning of 21st century when I wrote this book, NCERT. Quantum mechanics came sometimes in 1920s. So already 80 years, almost 80 years had passed. And still if we think it is something new, then we are depriving our students of the latest. We have to change with the changing times. Maybe we are finding it difficult to teach. It doesn't mean that it should not be taught. So that's what I mean. We need to revise our syllabi more frequently. Knowledge is growing very, very fast. There was a time when doubling time of the growth of knowledge was 150 years. And now this time has come down to almost 70 days. So fast our knowledge is becoming outdated. What we know is just a drop, and what we do not know is an ocean. Therefore, it's our responsibility that we teach our students the latest. And for building the background, for example, if you have to teach atomic structure, why do we need to start from Daltons? They can learn all this on their own. Everywhere it is available. Let's start with the latest. So this is what I mean, that we need to revise, and this is what has also been stated in the new education policy. Keep curriculum light, but keep it modern, so that there is more time for the students to think. And then, in any education, 3 or 4 things are important. One is, what do you teach? Second is, how do you teach? Third is, how do you assess the students, and the fourth is the infrastructure. So what do you teach is like the menu which you offer to the student, that has to be modern. We need to work on that. And we also need to establish contacts. Science is a systematic study of reality. Different branches of science, physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, they are all dealing with a part of that reality. This is a man-made, compartmentalization. Oh, this is chemistry, this is physics, this is botany. Because we say science is under two categories, natural sciences and social sciences. The natural sciences are divided in two categories, physical sciences and life sciences. In physical sciences, we have physics, chemistry, life sciences, we have botany, zoology, like that. But they are interconnected. Just because we have compartmentalized it doesn't mean that there is no link. And these days, all major awards are in interdisciplinary fields. So teachers as well as students should also not only learn chemistry, but also physics. We talk about physical chemistry, we talk about chemical physics, we talk about biochemistry, we also talk about geochemistry. So that's all interconnection. We have to be very, very clear about that. And the same approach should also be followed by the teachers while teaching. It should not be done in isolation. Then teaching methodologies, I have told you what needs to be done. And now one teaching methodology which is gaining immense popularity is flipped classroom. I think one student pointed out about flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is a new model which, basically the aim is it engages the student. Suppose I have to teach any concept. I will make a video lecture on that concept. And then I will give it to the students. Okay, take this video lecture, watch it at home. Watch it one time, two times, three times. Whatsoever is clear, note down whatsoever is not clear. Whatsoever are the questions you prepare. You prepare questions for the teacher while watching it at home. And then the next day you come, all this is to be done at home. The next day you come to the class where you ask the questions which you could not get answers. Teacher will answer those questions. Other students have also read, so there will be a sort of a collaborative learning. They will all contribute. They will all give their ideas. Because you have not only to watch the video lecture, you can also learn from the various other sources, Google, YouTube, etc. You can enrich yourself. And then here the role again comes of a teacher, especially in science, to engage them, to ask them the questions which arouse their curiosity. Engage them. So that is what is required. In our traditional teaching method, talk and chalk, we focus normally on lower order thinking skill. What are lower order thinking skill? Knowledge, understanding, and application. That's all. Generally, these three things are touched. Higher order thinking skills like analysis, evaluation, and creativity, they are not touched. That is why there is a problem of creativity. So, in flipped classroom model, in the class, you can engage the students and take them up to higher order thinking skills so that it becomes their habit to think out of the box. So this method is becoming very popular. But then the question comes, who will prepare the video lecture? It is to be done by the teacher. Excellent video lecture should be there. Who will engage the students in all these activities? Again, the teacher. So ultimately, it boils down to the fact that we have to raise the competence level of our teachers. They need to be trained so that their knowledge can be percolated to the student and they can be trained for the future challenges. So this is the new method, flipped classroom, becoming very, very important. And other method I told, collaborative learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning. Unfortunately in India, we still focus on lecture-based learning. Look at the leading universities of the world. Lecture-based learning is minimum. Most of the time it is case studies, problem-based, project-based, gamification, all these things are coming. So we need to change with the changing times. And the third thing is assessment. We need to transform the system of culture of our assessment, the system of assessment. Even new education policy says, because assessment drives learning. The way you will assess your student will start learning in that way. If you will ask rote learning question, they will do that. If you ask some thought-provoking question, it will force them to think on that line. So, setting a good question paper is also going to be a big challenge in future, because technology has come, no doubt, but technology in examination is in the conduct of examination. Online examinations are becoming very popular. National Testing Agency has been created, but who will set good questions? That has to come from the teacher. So here also we need to work so that students now know that mere memorization will not work. I will not be able to survive if only I am banking on rote learning. No, that will not work, especially in science. So this is another thing which we have to keep it in mind. And of course, we need to build infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important. Technologically, we have to be sound and all that. So we need to have appropriate. And now, during Corona pandemic, you must have seen virtual labs have come. They are becoming a very important thing because you could not do experiments. So a concept of virtual lab has come where through internet you can be connected to the labs and remotely you can do. But even while doing experiments, aim is not to do experiments. You are not doing any experiment as a technician. No. You have to understand the science behind each experiment. Why we are doing this. What would happen if this is done? How it will be done. So curiosity has to be encouraged. Curiosity, the foundation of creativity is curiosity. Albert Einstein once said, I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. That's all. Look at Newton. Millions of people must have seen the fall of apple, but only Newton said why this is falling. So curiosity. So we need to arouse that in our students. So, this is how our education system need to change. I have shared with you my experience, my concerns, and because I have worked very closely with all these things. Therefore, I am telling you, as an individual also, you should work hard. Rote learning or mass, scoring 90 plus marks, that's just our examination system because we examine one student against the other. That's not. And unfortunately, a student's mark sheet has become the prestige sheet for the family and a pressure sheet for the child. That's not the purpose of education. Purpose, as it is said, education is not the learning of the facts. It is the training of the mind to think, cognitive learning. That is what we call. So we need to work on that. And in science, it is required all the more. As a matter of fact, the same thing should happen in all. Because this ultimately affects our research output. One of the main reasons why our universities and colleges do not come in the world ranking, it is because of our research program. We need to improve on that. We are the third largest scientific and technical manpower in the world. But quality-wise, where do we stand? Impact factor-wise, where do we stand? That is where we need to. So I think I have said enough and I've shared some of my thoughts. But it was really heartening to listen to the views of the young participants. All of them must have done a lot of work. And I congratulate them for sharing their ideas. And I would certainly hope that some of my suggestions are beneficial for them and it molds them towards the right direction. That's our that's the purpose of this. What our young people need, what our teachers need to be equipped with so that we can excel in doing insight. That's basically the thing. There are many challenges, but challenges keep us fresh. There is a very famous quote: a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. So humans are not designed to be happy in status quo. Remain dissatisfied with yourself so that you can get better and better. That should be the driving force. And we young people like you, I think students, I think the future of the country depends on you. You are our hope. Therefore, I especially took an interest that I should be a part of this event because we have, during Corona pandemic, you will be surprised to know that we have trained, we have a Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center of Ministry of Education, where I am the chairman. We trained about 70,000 teachers, but never had a chance to train the students. So this was a unique opportunity. So I did not want to miss it because, Nehru once very rightly said, the future of the country is built in the classroom. So here are you, our future hopes. All the best. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging and inspirational words and shedding light on literacy of media, AI, machines, information, and interdisciplinary approach in learning science. Now, we will move on to the question answer session. If you have any queries, either type them in the chat box or raise your hand.
Hello, sir. I am Basil Raksi from JNV Ernakulam. I would like to ask a question. We now follow a certain syllabus directed by the NCRT. Do you think that there is a need to revise the syllabus in the near future that include new topics according to which the world is advancing, our country is advancing? So, is there a need for a revise in our syllabus? What do you think?
I'm sure the syllabus will be revised, and already a preliminary meeting in this regard has been held. I am also a member of that committee, and but no final decision has been taken because we have also to implement new education policy. We have a new structure now. So, in the light of that, I'm sure the syllabus will be revised because, as I said, many new things have come and new methods, introduction of technology, e-learning, MOOCs, etc. All those things have to be done so that our students not only learn the subject but they also become tech savvy. This is very important because world is presently passing through the industrial revolution 4.0. So, for Industrial Revolution 4.0, which is based on disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, then virtual reality, augmented reality, all those things, cloud computing, this is further going to change the education system. What more is going to come in future? We are going to have, personalized learning, which is going to come very future. Personalized learning means teaching you as per your requirements. So, through learning analytics, we will come to know what are the strengths and the weaknesses of an individual learner. And keeping that in mind, we will develop a curriculum for that person separately. That is now what is going to happen. That is called personalized learning. Because, every learner is unique. Every per learner comprehension rate is different. Methods of gauging information is different. So, in our traditional talk and chalk method, we think all of them are the same. No, that's one mistake. Some may be very active learners, some may be passive, some may be very slow. So, with the help of technology under Education 4.0, we are going to have this personalized learning, which is going to come in a very big way. So, you can very well imagine how the things are going to change. And India is almost in Industrial Revolution 4, although world is moving in Industrial Revolution 5.0 already. 5.0 is where man and machines work together. That is what's going to happen. So, what I want our young people to come up so that we don't remain only the followers. We have to become leaders also. So, That is possible only when we have the modern syllabi. We start teaching artificial intelligence, cloud computing to every student so that by the time they finish their education, they know all these things. These are these are going to be the pen and paper of our times. That is what I want. Anyway, thank you.
So Prerna is asking a question. I quote, do you think new education policy will be a boon for upcoming students and also for teachers?
Can you repeat it? There is some echo coming. Can you repeat it, madam?
Yes, sir. The question is, do you think new education policy will be a boon for upcoming students and also for teachers?
Yes, it is. On paper, it looks very impressive. It is trying to achieve the goals of modern times. But, my only concern is that at micro level, who is to implement new education policy? It is the teacher who has to help. So, without empowerment of the teachers, without their professional training, it may not be possible. So, we need to focus on that. For example, I am in higher education. In higher education, we have teachers in the age group of 25 to 65. Some of them are tech savvy, some of them are not. But all of them are the teachers of higher education system. So if we have to achieve the goals of new education policy, we need to empower the teachers. Because in 2020, when the policy was announced, before that we had the education policy of 1986. After 34 years, this new policy has come. But the teachers are the same, who were earlier following 1986 policy. So overnight they have not changed. Therefore, we need to empower them. We need to tell them about technology. We need to tell them about online examination. We need to tell them how to develop MOOCs. Their roles are going to change. Now, for example, even at school level, 10th to 12th, MOOCs are coming. NCRT is preparing, National Institute of Open Schooling is preparing. But if students are enrolled in MOOCs and if they have some queries, who will answer them? It is the teacher only. So, teachers need to learn how to manage virtual classroom or how to manage virtual discussion forum. So, they should be trained for that. So, objectives are really laudable, but implementation is a challenge. We have to really work on that.
Thank you, sir. I hope Prerna you got your answer. Suhail, you have raised your hand. You can ask your question now.
Sir, I want to ask that which method of teaching you will prefer, online or offline, and why?
You know, online has some advantages, but it has also many limitations. There is no doubt about that. Look at one simple point. India has at present about 1,000 universities, maybe about 50,000 colleges. And our gross enrollment ratio is still 26.3%. So since independence till this date, we have only this much gross enrollment ratio for the age group of 18 to 23. Now, new education policy says we have to raise gross enrollment ratio to 50% by 2035. So, in the next 13 to 14 years, we have to almost double gross enrollment ratio. You can't open 1,000 more universities and 50,000 more colleges in 10 years, not physically not possible. So here online education will come to our help. Online education will help you in enhancing the outreach of education. Access will be there. Then, equity is there because anybody can have. So online education can help you in certain way, quality wise also, because e-learning and MOOCs. For example, I'm the chairman of a center which has developed 50 MOOCs in the country, maximum in the country by any institute. But behind development of one MOOC, And MOOC means massive open online course. You need so much effort. You need top people of the country. I myself have developed the MOOCs for physical chemistry, quantum mechanics, MSc level, which I have been teaching in Delhi University. So what I mean to say is that it is something, MOOCs are something like the best of the country addressing the rest. So that way it helps you in quality, it helps you in overcoming the problem of shortage of faculty also. So that way it has advantages. But online education has some disadvantages. Collaborative learning is missing. One, there is a sense of isolation because you are just sitting, you are just at a receiving end, and all subjects cannot be taught online. And then, there are many subjects which you cannot teach online. Music you cannot teach online. How will you teach? So those problems have to be overcome. And then there is also a very serious problem of digital divide in this country. How many people would have the computer devices, or they can access computer, or they may be living in a place where climate is such you can't have good internet. So all these problems make online education a little, and then lack of communication skills also. So it has some disadvantages, there is no doubt about.
Can I?
Yeah, please continue. Ask your question.
Yeah, okay. It's like a comment. So thank you so much for your, the overall observations and clear-cut suggestions with your experience. That's wonderful to listen all through. Though, in fact, I told Meherwan that I won't be, sitting all through, but the children's presentation as well as your talk pulled me and fixed me here only. Okay, so I
Excellent.
left my work aside and I was listening to all in the background. Two aspects. In fact, when you said that personalized teaching, one thing comes to my mind. I'm 4 or 5 years ago, I was part of this Bal Shri event by National Bal Bhavan. Okay, so that is conducted at 3 age groups, and then one part is science communication, one aspect, and children were asked to write essays on that. And I recollect a student of a 6th, 7th class boy who wrote fiction on like future class. Okay, he says he lives in an apartment and the class is conducted at the basement at the same. There is nowhere going, and who is the teacher? It is the robots. Okay, so it's such a imagine creativity that's why I wanted to. I thought it's the right forum to recollect that. Another thing is, sir, actually, I also was wondering, science teaching, how will be the impact of, mother tongue in this role? Okay, so regional, this one. What is your take on that? How much we should be? Does language really matters more in that?
I think I personally feel that language plays a very, very important role. And although, many books may not be available in regional languages, but if the teachers can teach in regional languages or deliver lectures, it can really have an impact. If you have seen in this budget, it was mentioned about one prime minister scheme, e-Vidya. E-Vidya is a scheme where you have, channels. Earlier you had 12 channels starting from class 1 to class 12. But now under this revised E-Vidya scheme, the number of channels has increased to 200. Why 200? Because there will be channels in regional languages. So teachers will be delivering lectures in regional languages, which will certainly have an impact. There is no doubt about that. Today also you must have seen some people were presenting in Hindi or in. It's okay. How does it matter? What matters is training of the mind to think. That is more important. So I think regional and even the MOOCs on SWAYAM platform in India, already more than 2,000 MOOCs have been uploaded, but most of them are in English. Now the next exercise is going to be how to translate them into regional languages. So languages certainly will have its own impact. That's
Thank you.
that's what I feel.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, Somu, it was a pleasure meeting you.
We wind up the question answer session. Concluding our webinar, I now request Ms. Shonali Nagal, scientist, CSIR NISPER, to propose a vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Uh, am I audible, Raba?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of CSIR NISPER, I, Sonali Nagar, express my gratitude to all guests of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. We would like to extend our gracious thanks to Professor Ashok Bakshi for sparing his time to grace the program with his valuable remarks. Our sincere thanks to Mr. R.S. Jayasomu, Chief Scientist, CSIR NISPER, for sharing his views and information. We specifically thank our Director, Dr. Ranjana Agarwal, and Mr. Hassan Javed Khan, Chief Scientist, CSIR NISPER, for their guidance and support. I also thank Dr. Meherwan, Scientist, CSIR NISPER, for coordinating this valuable webinar, and our moderators, Ms. Rama and Ms. Prerna. We must mention our deep sense of appreciation to the principals, teachers, and students for their active participation. I would also like to thank the entire organizing and technical team for all time support. Once again, thank you everyone for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. All the best.